there was months last year I was doing 30 grand last year, and now I'm doing minimum 250.
I think the first 6 or 7 years you were sort of doing well, but probably just paying yourself, a few grand a month and just ticking over. And then all of a sudden it was like you got to a stage where you learned enough and then you went all in.
Whatever I was, 34 or something at that time. And, I was making maybe 2 grand a month. Like, this is seriously, this is what my girlfriend said to me. She said to me, Luke, you're not making enough from the online stuff. I want you to have 50 grand in the bank, at least, in 9 months. The fun of it is have no experience. Because then you don't know, then it's like an open field.
Do you ever listen to anyone's advice, or do you always think you know best? All of this is funded out of my own pocket. So if you got value from this, I just, implore you just to share the show with someone that you think will find it valuable. Like the show, subscribe to the show, follow it on all the podcast platforms. Yeah, where I think people go wrong is that they sort of set themselves a plan and then do what you said there, as in like, you just got to do the first step, which maybe watch a little bit of training or watch a YouTube video and then learn something else and then open your account or stuff like that, order your first item or go and buy your first item. People start that and then they don't see any progress instantly and then they stop essentially, like, do you think that's why most people fail, is just not sticking the track out that they know is right?
It's very,
get bored maybe.
It's very difficult for me to fully answer that. The reason is because what I didn't leave out on that, so what I'd left out on that conversation where I woke up on the Monday morning is I sent an email to my manager that morning saying, look, I made up a story basically to sort of make it look more legit, that kind of fit with what was going on. I said, currently the current setup at the business has changed, and I don't think I'm a good fit, like blah, blah, blah. And I basically just emailed my manager and said, look, that's it, I'm not coming in anymore. Sent it to the finance director, and that was it. No one actually knew that I was quitting. For me, I had to just cut the cord. And, and normally a lot of good sayings come from that kind of attitude, which is very scary and risky as well. But that for me was, I have to succeed. I mean, obviously, worst case scenario, if it didn't work out, of course I can go to another job. But then I would probably realize to myself, oh, well, I could always have this job for 1 or 2 years and I could do the same thing and try the next thing. Like I've done it. Very scary, of course. You've never done that before, but actually it's fine. A lot of it is that mindset as well. But a lot of people that might be getting bored and stuff. It depends on how much you really want it. How much the way I look at it a lot of the time, I try to sort of put myself in this place whenever I'm thinking kind of a bit weird thoughts about things that are going on and not quite confident. And I think, if I looked at myself, if I'm picturing myself on my deathbed and I saw myself just working a job, 35, 40, I don't even know what I'd be getting, but let's say 40 grand a year, not in London, it'd probably be fine. There'd be periods of nice life, there'd be periods of down. I might get married, have 2 kids, get divorced at 55 and, move to Spain. And that's not necessarily bad. People don't dread their life. For people that from experience you've spoken to, family, and they don't dislike what they've done. But for me, I'm like, isn't that such a shame? The potential of what you could have done. Like, I want to do everything that I want to do in my life, right? I want to do everything I want to do in my life and not, there's going to be limitations. Of course, everyone has limitations of what you can and can't do. But I don't want to be so suppressed that it's almost impossible to at least do, a decent amount of what I want to fulfill in life, in everywhere, travel, having the time to read books, maybe go and study another degree, maybe study 3 degrees in my life, learn piano. I could learn 1,000 million skills having the flexibility with some sort of business than I could ever in a job.
Yeah. The thing that I think holds people back, just to carry on with that question, is that, because I still suffer with this with myself, being completely transparent. I'll set a path that I know is right, that I know will succeed, but I also now with my business experience, it will take a lot longer than I think it's going to take, right? So I'll set that, and then I'll start doing some work towards it, start trying to build that momentum, but it's taken a long time. And then my sort of inner critic, the part of me that sort of lacks confidence still, sort of tries to take over, and sometimes I'll deviate from the plan and I'll almost give up before I've really given it a good shot. And I know there's a lot of people listening to this that are the same. Do you get that? I feel like you don't really get that. I feel like you just charge through, and I'm convinced that's what success is. That's how people succeed.
It's kind of weird for me. Yeah. I do it off of like this weird feeling. Yeah. Now, it's not a literal feeling. I don't feel like some tingling in my fingers or something. But when I know something's right,
yeah,
I know it's right. You could say it's your heart and not your head, you know, and people say you like make a decision with your heart and not your head.
Yeah.
I guess you know, the easiest way to relate would maybe be that, but it's just when I know something's going to work, I'll go 290%. I don't just go 110. It's like, but then there's periods where I might go 20%.
Yeah.
Because it's just not working. And I know this is not right. And I'm like trying to find that next, you know, imagine, I'm trying to think of a good example. Imagine just like, you know, automatic cars are just driving into a car park and there's spaces. Eventually all those spaces, if you keep having enough cars, will fill up. And I'm just trying to find that one space. And once I'm in it, I'm off for the races.
Yeah.
But I know that many times I drive and they'll be full. I won't be able to actually get to that. And that's the feeling of something isn't just quite right. You know, and I like to force things a little bit, you know, at times, but not too much. So I don't go, I have to make this work. I think I'll push a little bit, you know, see if there's some sort of roadblock that I'm not seeing.
Yeah.
And that push will push me through, and then I'll see the light, if you call it. But a lot of the time, once I know something's going to work, it just feels right. Ultimately, it just feels right. And I know, and then it starts to even make me more like alive in creativity. Like, okay, I can do this. And I start to have all these more like, I don't know what they are. They're just sort of the thoughts that are more on a bigger picture than I need to get through this little thing, like, you know. And it's just the way and I've been like that since I was young. I've always, most of the time, like I said, when I quit that job, I didn't hand in my notice. I could have done 2 weeks notice.
Yes.
But it just felt right to do exactly that. And so I did literally that because it felt perfect.
I don't think you realise how much more confidence you have than the average person with that respect. So even like me, you know, I've achieved some good stuff now, but I'll have all the feelings that you've just had. You know, like, you know, I'll prove it to myself a bit. I'll start going, momentum's good, and I'm like, great. As soon as I get that first setback, I'm doubting myself. I have confidence issues with it. That's just me being completely transparent. So I don't think you've realised that confidence you've either built up or you've always had. Do you think you built that?
I've got a good thing. So I have exactly the same things. I sit there at days and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm a failure. And I probably thought this like a month ago or 2 months ago and years ago. Okay, it happens all the time. Every week it might be something that crops up and I'm like, maybe I'm just like a phony. Like I'm a one-hit wonder, you know, these kind of feelings, like, you know, just because I've done it for a year, what's that? You know, the shorter the time frame, the more open to luck it can be. It doesn't have, you know, the longer you can do it, the less down to luck it's going to probably be because you've had to prolong that. And there's many times that I just say to myself that I don't have intense thoughts, but I drift in my thoughts to these kind of things. I just say, shut the fuck up, Luke. That's literally the one thing I do. I just say, shut the fuck up. I've got shit to do. And so a really weird way I do it is I separate myself into two, the lower me and the upper me. So like you could say body and soul. Yeah. My body, which is my brain, Luke, in terms of my memories and my feelings, is thinking this. But this Luke here, which is linked to maybe like the deathbed Luke, which is thinking, you know, come on, you can do this. Like that future me, like pulling me in the right direction. So imagine he's trying to pull me. But this Luke obviously only lives here and now in the moment. And so only can go off what he's learned and experienced. And this Luke that's connected to this, you know, whatever rope is getting pulled in. Obviously he can let go of this rope, but I'm trying to pull myself, you know, the future me trying to pull me. So I have to say, just cut the crap, Luke.
Wow.
And I actually say it like that, cut the crap. I speak to myself like it's another person, a third person.
That disconnect, you know, and then the connection to say that, you know, your future.
I just try to stop that emotional part, and I had to. And obviously, for me, the easiest way is to talk to myself as if I'm somebody like this other Luke, which is my soul Luke. Like, you know, I guess you could call it.
So powerful, because as I say, you know, where I'm now, I struggle with that hugely, you know, and I think a lot of people, you know, even at the early stages, will be struggling with that a lot, and I think that's probably the most powerful part of the conversation probably. But so you override the I don't know, some people call it a bitch voice. I think I've heard of some entrepreneurs say. Would that be the same, like some people struggle to work out, for example, but then you have to override that with where you want to actually get to. Yeah. But digging deep into that though, it's so easy just to say that and just say, just override it, just tell yourself it's going to be okay. Tell yourself sometimes that doesn't work, Like, how do people actually ever, as I say, were you born with it or do you think you built that confidence?
I mean,
I would say that's confidence.
would you?
Yeah, I would say that. Because that's the part of my life where I struggle the most, for sure. And yeah.
It's weird. It's like, it's very hard to describe certain things, but I believe in myself, even though I feel like nobody believes in me.
Yeah.
Apart from isolated people who I'm around very often, but
yeah.
So I have to be my own soother in a sense, not me literally but I have to be my own fan and my own critic and my own everything because it's very difficult. But I found I'll be definitely when I started, my nan literally laughed at me when I said I'm going to sell £10,000 a month, and to me that was massive. When I'm trying to do 700,000 next month, right? So it completely different. But that to her was, so I've had to sort of build this kind of my own world in a sense,
Yeah. Do you ever listen to anyone's advice, or do you always think you know best?
I do.
You do.
It's very hard for me. There are specific people I will want. It's basically I don't know how I would describe it. There's tiers,
right?
So there's many people I will just not listen to really. It's just how and that's not
that people that haven't achieved.
You could say people would say, oh, you're doing that for a reason. But I'm being like that. I've not changed. This is how I've always been. And then there'd be other people where I'm kind of open to it, but I wouldn't act on it. I would be open to the suggestion. And then there's higher level people, and mostly it's just down to people who have done things, I guess.
Yes.
The more that they've done and experienced, they're more likely to listen. I guess that's just like anyone, really, isn't it? And so, there are people that I will take, 90% of what they've said. I don't know if I'll ever take 100%, because I always feel from my perspective, I can always bring a different view to what that person can bring. So I never say 100% I would just go along with someone's advice, but 90%. And then I'd always open it up to a bit of my own interpretation.
Yeah. I don't think you can ever should ever listen to someone's advice 100%, because it's got to go through your own filter of your insecurities, your values, the things that you want to do with your life, what you believe in. Do you know what I mean? Some people used to tell me, for example, multiple income streams is really good, and I used to listen to that, intensely, and think, oh right, I better build multiple income streams. I'm not that sort of person. I don't want multiple income streams. I want a good one that pays the bills, that's good, that I believe in, because my brain doesn't work in the way I can't have too many tabs open. But that's for me personally. Some people should have multiple income streams. So I think when you're listening to these people online, or even mentors or friends or family, it's got to go through your own filter. That's what I've learned. I don't know if you've
there's a million ways to do everything.
Yeah.
In every aspect of life, right? So it's not like you have to just do whatever the first person says. You just need to find the right fit. Like I say, I'm trying to find that. Once I find that perfect fit, it feels right. It's kind of similar to that, I guess. It's just just sort of no rush, no pressure.
Yeah.
Just find the rhythm that kind of flows better with you. Because, what I found is if you try to force something, it's always not only a lot more strain on you mentally, and you have so much more doubt, but it's also less results. You have to actually connect or fit with whatever action you're doing, so it goes hand in hand. Yourself and the action sort of work together.
Yes.
And that's really the best thing. So you don't just go, oh, but I've got to do this because that's the only way I can do it, or that's all I've known.
Yeah.
If it might be that's not you've rushed something, you've put too much pressure on yourself to maybe start a business in 3 months. I wouldn't ever say necessarily have that much pressure, or that don't define things in black and white quite like that. Take your time and find something that you connect with, because you within a year you'll do what you would have done in 5 years in the one that you're forcing.
Yeah. So what do you think about compounding them? Because from my experience, what I've seen you do, I think the first 6 or 7 years you were sort of doing well, but probably just paying yourself, a few grand a month and just ticking over. And then all of a sudden it was like you got to a stage where you learned enough and you were like, right, I know this stuff, I've tested it and all that sort of stuff. And then you went all in. I mean, like there was a year that you were doing probably a quarter of the year you did after that, wasn't it?
So I've done multiple, like I've had periods where I've done, obviously at the beginning, 200, like 100 grand probably, and 250 or 300, something like that, a couple of years.
Yeah.
Then I went up to about 1.1 million a year.
Yeah.
And then I went back down to about 500,000 or 600,000. Then it was probably the same year after.
Yeah.
And then I went up.
That?
Oh God,
That's
so
the last
many
year.
years.
Yeah.
So like I think last year would have been around like 1 and a bit million.
Yeah.
1.2, 1.3, something like this. The year before would have been around about 650, 700, and then probably
huge growth. Yeah, that's
2 before that would have been maybe 500,000, and then maybe whenever COVID year was, that was the one that was also 1 point something.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, a few years ago, like 3 years ago, or something like that, you were like 600,000, and now it's like 3 million.
Because
you've compounded your skill and your experience, and
it's constantly developing and re-evolving and growing everything.
But there must have been a time,
and eventually it just clicks. Yeah, it did. So I had that light bulb moment last year.
You decided to go all in.
I basically completely changed everything.
Yeah,
and as soon as I got that first sale with the new method, I was getting up at 4 a.m.
Yeah,
I basically said, "Oh God, I've got to do what I would have done in two or 3 years, in 8 months or 9 months, whatever it would have been." I think it was like March last year. So there was months last year I was doing 30 grand last year, and now I'm doing minimum 250.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
on a bad month.
So you must have hit it hard to get.
I had to go hard, and hard doesn't mean I'm working crazy hours. I mean, I was getting up at 4:30, so starting about 5:30, and then by about 3, I was kind of not fully focused. So I would make sure that all the more simple tasks were between like 3 and 5, and that's it. Yeah. And then just an hour or two, an hour on the weekends, just to double check. Is everything business as usual? Is it not? So it's not like it was intense, but it was just like a couple more extra hours a day, where I could build up that momentum by about 7, 8 in the morning. And that's what I needed. And I did that for, I think it took me at least 6 months to fully of that speed. And then at that point, that's when I started to see the real return. So it took me that long, even though I had all that experience of 7 years, I guess I had.
Yeah.
And it still took me 6 months to actually see the results starting to actually on like numbers, for example, sales, profits, that kind of thing. And then obviously and I knew that would happen because, again, I had done it for so long. I knew that I can forecast this, I can predict this, I can use probabilities, I can get statistics, and I can figure out what is most likely going to happen because of all the experience I've had. So you don't necessarily even have to have any, basically the fun of it is have no experience. Because then you don't know, then it's like an open field. You don't know what's right or wrong. You're just playing around, As long as you don't go too crazy on any direction, you'll pick up those experiences and that will develop. You'll redefine that, you refine it, you process it. 8 years later, you're able to do things like that. So it's actually like, I actually thought about quitting at one point.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you ever felt like quitting?
Like, this is seriously, this is what my girlfriend said to me. She said to me, "Luke, you're not making enough from the online stuff. We want to buy a house next year. I want you to have 50 grand in the bank at least in 9 months." And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to, hang on. I was like this. I was like, I'm sure I've got 20. I was like, within 9 months, I was like, obviously I've got to live as well. And I was like, so that also was a really interesting thing.
Yeah.
Because I somehow reacted to that. So you don't necessarily always need someone that, like I was saying before, most of it's internal, but that is always something I wonder, actually, deviating from the sort of conversation, is that was an interesting moment where something happened, I guess.
Yeah.
Because
I then went... How long ago was that? What, 3 years ago?
1 year and 2 months.
Oh,
last summer,
just before you blew up.
Before I actually started to see. So I was doing all what I was doing, but I hadn't actually
right. But you weren't seeing the results.
I haven't seen any results. Yeah. And I was actually, go and get a fishing job in England, or like work in the fish factories for the summer because you get good pay. And I was like,
am I really think to me?
And I thought, oh my, I don't know what happened. Basically, I don't know what. I even think to this day what happened in my brain at that point. And fair enough as well. Like, I'm 30, whatever I was, 34 or something at that time. And, I was making maybe $2,000 a month. I mean, it's not to say it's horrible, but it's not good, right? It's not at that point you think like, and I thought about it and I thought, worst case, if I had to do that, it would only ever be it would be temporary, but I would never stop doing it, something. Yeah. But I also believed in I like to prepare and have options so I know what's going on. That's what I've learned a lot. Just prepare. Scenario plan. Scenario plan's a great thing. Even in life, business, everything. What would you do if this happened? What would you do if this happened? And actually, so whenever something comes up, that's what I do a lot of in my mind. Whenever something comes up, you know what to do. You already have an answer. You're not so there is no really real fear as such because you always have the answer to it. So if your sales suddenly drop next year from this number to this number and you're only making this, what would you do? You already have a plan. That's actually a really good thing for anything, life, everything. So obviously not to waste too much time on that, but that was an interesting thing. And at that point, last summer is where I just, obviously went crazy. And so there's definitely been periods where I've been down, in the dumps because you think, well, after 5 or 6 years, I should really be doing amazing. You think? I think that's what most people think. Yeah, I don't know.
I guess it's sort of sold like that online, isn't it? That way.
Like within 2 years, I should be a millionaire.
To me, I think 5, 6 years, I used to think, oh my God, such a long time. Yeah. Like, I'm going to get so old by that, but it goes so fast, doesn't it?
I still think that in a little bit of a sense.
For sure, yeah.
But because I don't know where I'd be in a year. And that is the kind of fun part about it. A lot of that's, we haven't really talked about this, but a lot of people, when they have a job and everything, they can probably look into the future 5 years and see what would happen. They can go, oh yeah, probably next year we're going to go on a family holiday for 2 weeks to Tenerife, or we're going to do, we might get a new car in 2 years or a new kitchen. Like it's very planned and calculated, right? It's very calculated. Yeah. There's no what if or wonder. There's no wonder, like surprise, or like when you're a child, you don't know where you're going on the weekend. You go to a party, and it's like you got a bouncy castle, or you go into it's like that. Just enjoy, it's that life. It's that spark of life. I don't want to lose the spark of life. It's not actually about being an entrepreneur. It's the spark of life. And obviously for me, I found that was, I don't want to be half a person for my whole life. Hi, mate. Like, come on, mate. Where's the kind of energy? You're going to give me something, right? And I used to be like that. I used to be really, kind of terrible.
I love that kind of mindset shift there. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, yeah, it's scary, but I almost reframing that fear into excitement as well. Like for example, before I did this podcast, the reason I didn't start this podcast for so long is because I had sponsors and I was earning money from affiliates and everything from my previous Amazon chat. Good money, so $2.5, $3 a month sometimes, on top of my other businesses. And I'm like, oh, that's really hard because it's kind of golden handcuffs in a way. But it got so bad that I was like, I'd rather just give all this money away in order to chase my dream. And it's kind of like sometimes I think financially it can spur you, motivate you to really go after your thing, can't it? You can either use it as fear to not take action or use the fear to take action, And
it's something you was mentioning there about, getting rid of what you were doing before and sort of starting anew. I think a lot of people.
That's so fun, exciting.
It is. Like I like that. I don't know what I'll be doing if I could have 3 kids living in a mansion. I could be homeless. I'm not gonna rule out the fact that is a possibility, although it's slim. I'm not gonna say there's 0%.
You could be homeless.
Like, okay, when I say 0, no one knows that. No one could ever say it's probably going to be 0, but obviously, I mean, there's a slightly higher chance. It's not outside the realm of my scope of thought that could happen. And
it's making me laugh, Gigi. Just go relax.
But I'm preparing myself as well. It's not going to be a random event as well, like scenario planning. It's literally part of my scenario planning.
Stop laughing.
So I'm thinking, oh God, I'm going to be 40, like something, and I'm going to be homeless, and I might not, be on the streets, right? But I just might have.
I had the same thoughts. It's scary.
I might not be. I might be staying at a friend's here and paying my dad £100 just because that's all I can make at that point, or And technically, I'm homeless because I don't earn enough to actually live on my own at that age. But not, I'm sure there'd be someone that would take me in. But it is very interesting. But I do like that because obviously the probability of that happening is pretty slim. And I think a lot of people, they always jump to the worst case scenario. I see that a lot. around. They're like, oh yeah, but that's not going to happen. Based off what facts?
Yeah.
You've literally just made a random guess, basically, and it's the worst guess. It's like,
yeah,
it's just, and that is probably because there's no teaching, there's no like encouragement and teachings around all of this. A lot of the entrepreneur mindset, even if you work a job and have that mindset, it's hard to talk to people. A lot of the time, I noticed, because they've never been exposed to that stuff. To them, it's completely foreign. And just even having conversations as an entrepreneurial mindset, not even if you just work a job, is very difficult. You have to find the right person. So I could go on for a long time, but it's a very interesting dynamics that go on in that space.
It's kind of about thinking big and taking the risk anyway. So this podcast is called Make It Big. What do you think about thinking big?
So I think there's many layers to that. Big, like I said before, was my £1,200. To me, that was massive, beyond massive, because I got my freedom back while having the same wage. So I've basically got half of my goal instantly. Then I'm breaking even. Even if I make an extra £100, I'm literally on cloud nine. But these things do change. Big to everybody is always going to be slightly different, and you're always reevaluating that based on different factors that go on through your life. Relationships, location, stuff to do with inflation and costs of living. There's not just making it big in one area as well. Like, for example, I actually admire people sometimes when they're making it big as having a family.
100%.
And because I had a guy at my old job, and he was probably about 38. It's about 10 years ago. And he used to be really quite decently happy guy. Obviously not intense, but happy. And he'll always be laughing and, always suggesting, let's go for a beer or whatever, whatever it might have been. And I always thought, wow, he's always really happy, actually. And a lot of people aren't like that in the office. That's not the sort of underlying tone you always get. And I said to him once, do you have any dreams or aspirations? Because I was just curious to see, because he almost seemed like he didn't. And he'd be like, no, not really. I was like, oh. But you must have some dreams. Like, yeah, my wife and kids. I was like, but everyone's different. To him, that was his perfect making it big. To him, he could have that all the way through his life, and he's fulfilled. So I guess it leads to fulfillment. Where is that fulfillment? And a lot of people do find it hard these days to find that. What do you need to fulfill in life to make it big? I guess. So everyone's different, and there's no right answer. Everything's, it literally could be anything in any walk of life in any area. And I, you never really know what that will be in either. Like, some people that are really against certain things change their minds, and 10 years later it's completely different. So making it big now may not even be what you think is making it big in 10 years. And that a lot of that comes down to experiences and maturity, and growing a bit older as well. So it is, but I'd always say that always have it in your mind that's like I say, I want to be my fuller self. I want to be my best self, and I'm never going to hit the cool thing I quite like is I always want to have really high expectations of what my big is. I'm probably never going to hit it, but I'm going to hit way higher than where I would be if I had nothing and I was just sort of ticking through life.
Yeah,
it's going to be a million miles ahead of where I would have even dreamed of. Because even thinking, like I said, back to when I was started business.
Yeah.
If I could say, Luke, by the way, you're going to be here when you're 36, I would have been like, oh my, it would have been insane. To me, I would have been like, he's Richard Branson. That's how I would have looked at myself. But obviously, when you get there, things are slightly different, right?
Yeah.
So, it's very fascinating. Even just the sort of overall concept.
Yeah. So just a couple of minutes left. Just want to say, sort of words of inspiration, for people that are starting out right now. So, how can they just go after it? Just talk about that mindset there. How can they just go after it and just start thinking bigger and just go after it? Is there any sort of quick fire you'd say?
Yeah, I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet as I can here. Like the way I try to do it, try to find a response that you can get within you that makes you think like this scenario. So I think of my higher self in terms of I'm on my deathbed, and that person is trying to pull me. You can do this. This is the way. It's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging. You can do this. Or I could just keep it chilled and just tick through life and not really have any stress, but it's never amazing and it's just whatever. that you need to find something that does that to you. Now, I'm sure everyone's going to be different. For me, it's like picturing myself there and thinking, oh God, like time goes so fast. People don't really think that it goes so fast. And actually, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, you can find that anchor point that can just drive you to get you just started. And just start, it can be anything. Watching this podcast, it could be watching 10 podcasts, it can be doing anything just to get you in that exposure. So you want to expose yourself to this kind of environment where, because most people aren't exposed to this environment. And the more you can get exposed, the more it opens your brain up to sort of understanding and accepting that as a principle, as an idea, entrepreneurship, business, lifestyle. And then from that, you can slowly sort of build on it and open yourself up to all these different areas that will make your life so much bigger.
Amazing. Luke, thanks so much for coming on. It's been, I think it's been really powerful, actually. Where can everyone find you if they want to follow you?
So, these days I'm usually not sort of around the socials as much as I used to, but mostly the easiest place is just Facebook. So I'm a bit old school, I'm so sorry about that. But it's just Luke Dugan, LukeDugan. And you can hit me up if you need me, Messenger or something like that. And I can always get back to you if you have any questions or queries.
Look at that. Open to helping people out.
That's it.
No ties attached, guys. Cool. Guys, it's been a really valuable episode. Make sure you follow the show, like the show. We haven't got any sponsors or anything on the show as of yet. So all of this is funded out of my own pocket. So if you got value from this, I just, implore you just to share the show with someone that you think will find it valuable. Like the show, subscribe to the show, follow it on all the podcast platforms. And we will see you next Thursday in the regular spot. All done.